For years, robots were built to impress. Now they are being asked to work. Do not dance. Do not pose. Did not go viral. Work. And that may be the real reset behind the humanoid robot race. The first wave of humanoid robots was about attention. A machine that could walk. A machine that could wave. A machine that looked enough like a person to trigger amazement. That stage mattered. It made the future visible. But it was never going to be enough. Because attention does not build industries. Usefulness does. And that is why robotics is entering a new phase. The industrial robot reset. This is the moment when the question changes. Not can a robot move, but can a robot work? That sounds simple. It is not. Because in robotics, useful work is one of the hardest goals in technology. A demo happens under controlled conditions. A real workplace does not. Factories are messy. Warehouses are dynamic. Objects shift. Conditions change. Tasks repeat. Failures cost money. Downtime matters. Safety matters. A robot that looks impressive on stage may still be nearly useless on a real production floor. That is why the robotics race is changing. The winning machines may not be the most cinematic. They may be the most reliable. This is the industrial robot reset. A shift from spectacle to function. A shift from publicity to deployment. A shift from what can this machine show to what problem can this machine solve. That change matters because embodied AI is becoming more serious. If intelligence is going to enter the physical economy, it cannot remain a novelty. It must create value. And value in robotics means something very specific. Repeatable work, stable performance, manageable cost, practical integration, acceptable safety, operational endurance. This is where reality begins. A humanoid robot is not useful because it resembles a human. It is useful if it can handle tasks that matter. That could mean part sequencing in a factory, basic transport inside a warehouse, routine inspection, repetitive handling, assistance in constrained industrial environments, work in spaces designed for human tools and layouts. This is why the humanoid idea remains attractive. Not because human shape is always ideal, but because much of the physical world is already designed around human movement, human reach, human tools, and human-sized spaces. If a robot can function inside those environments without forcing a total redesign, it gains an important advantage. That is the promise. But promises are easy. Deployment is hard. This is where the reset becomes visible. The robotics market is beginning to separate into two groups. Machines that attract attention, and machines that move closer to useful labor. That second group will matter more over time, because real industrial adoption changes the economics of the category. A dancing robot can generate headlines. A working robot can justify capital spending. That difference is everything. Reuters reporting around Hyundai and Atlas makes this point clearly. Hyundai plans to begin deploying Atlas humanoid robots in its US factory from 2028, first for part sequencing and later for more complex tasks. That is not a publicity stunt. It is an industrial pathway. Reuters won. And that pathway tells us something important. The future of robotics may not arrive through general-purpose household assistants first. It may arrive through narrow, useful industrial roles. That is how many major technologies spread. They begin in controlled environments. They solve specific tasks. They improve through repetition. Then they expand. The same may happen here. This is also why Unitree's rise matters. Reuters reported that Unitree shipped 5,500 humanoid robots in 2025 and captured 32.4% of the global humanoid market. Whatever happens next, that tells us the category is no longer just a lab experiment. Scale is beginning to matter. Reuters 2. Scale matters because volume creates learning. More units mean more real-world use. More use means more data. More data means better iteration. Better iteration can improve reliability, cost, and deployment readiness. That is how industrial categories mature. Not through one giant breakthrough, through cumulative usefulness. This is why the next robotics winners may not be defined only by intelligence. They may be defined by operational discipline. Can the company build enough units? Can it support them? Can it maintain them? Can it reduce failure rates? Can it make deployment boring enough for industry to trust? That last point matters. In industrial systems, boring is often the goal. Boring means stable. Boring means repeatable. Boring means financeable. Boring means a plant manager will say yes. That is very different from the culture of robot demos, and that is exactly why we are entering a reset. The market is shifting from imagination value to labor value, from viral clips to task completion, from symbolic robots to economic robots. This also changes the meaning of competition. The race is no longer only about who has the most human-like machine, it is about who has the most useful system. That includes more than the body. The software stack matters. Perception matters. Batteries matter. Actuation matters. Safety matters. Integration matters. Manufacturing matters. A robot that looks advanced but cannot sustain work is weak. A robot that looks less dramatic but can repeatedly solve a real task may win. This is one reason embodied AI is becoming strategic. It is no longer just about machine intelligence inside a body. It is about whether that body can become labor infrastructure. And once robots begin looking like labor infrastructure, the stakes rise. Productivity, labor markets, factory design, warehouse planning, industrial competitiveness, national manufacturing strategy. All of these begin to shift. That is why governments are paying attention. It is also why the security dimension is growing. If a robot can enter physical space, see its environment, move autonomously, and potentially connect to remote systems, then it stops looking like a toy. It starts looking like infrastructure. That is one reason US lawmakers have moved to block Chinese-made humanoid robots from federal use. They are not treating them as gadgets. They are treating them as systems that combine mobility, data, and physical presence. Reuters 2. This is another sign of the reset. Robots are moving from spectacle into consequence. That does not mean the industry is mature. It is not. There will still be failures. Over-promises, weak economics, fragile deployment models, marketing theater. But the direction is now clearer. The future of robotics will not be decided only by who builds a machine that can impress audiences. It will be decided by who builds a machine that can survive industrial reality. That is a harder contest. And it is a more important one. Because if embodied AI succeeds, it will not matter only to the digital economy. It will matter to the physical economy. Factories, warehouses, inspection systems, industrielle maintenance, supply chains. That is a much larger frontier. And that is why the industrial robot reset matters. It tells us the category is growing up. The question is no longer whether robots can attract attention. The question is whether they can create enough useful work to justify scale. The answer to that question will determine who leads the next era of robotics. Because in the end, the future will not belong to the robot that looks the most futuristic. It will belong to the robot that can actually work.